"Taylor, you're overreacting," my mother said, her voice laced with irritation and sarcasm, as if I had just complained about something trivial. But this wasn't trivial. This was every dollar I had saved over the past 10 years, the money that was supposed to give me a fresh start, and now, it was in the hands of someone who didn't deserve it. I tightened my grip on the glass of water, trying to steady myself as I stood in the middle of this unfamiliar living room. The house I had paid for, yet somehow, it belonged to someone else. His name was Ryan, 38 years old. He wasn't my brother. He never had been. He was my mother's second husband's son, the so-called golden boy she adored. A perpetual failure, hopping from one job to the next without ever caring to build anything for himself. And now, just when I thought I finally had a place of my own, my mother handed it to him as if I never even existed. "My name is Taylor Parker. I'm 32 years old, a nurse at a major hospital in Seattle. I spent my entire youth working tirelessly, day shifts, night shifts, ER shifts, countless sleepless nights watching patients struggle to survive. I gave up vacations, postponed outings with friends, put aside personal hobbies just so I could save $150,000. I was planning to use that money as a down payment for my own home, but when my mother begged me to help her buy a new house because they were on the verge of foreclosure, I didn't hesitate. I thought helping family was the right thing to do. But I was wrong. I remember the agreement clearly. I would pay the entire down payment, the house would be in my name, and I would have legal ownership. That was my only condition. My mother promised. I was foolish enough to believe she would keep her word. But now, here at what should have been my housewarming party, my mother stood before me, holding a stack of transfer papers and casually announcing that the house now belonged to Ryan. "Ryan needs a stable home for his family," she continued, glancing toward the guests mingling in the backyard. "You're young, healthy, with a great job at the hospital. You're about to get promoted too. You can buy another one." Rage surged through me like a tidal wave. I can buy another one? I worked for 10 years, sacrificing everything to save that money. And what about Ryan? Had he ever done anything to help Mom? Had he ever lost a single night of sleep to earn his own way? I turned to Jack, my stepfather, who had been silent the entire evening. He wouldn't even look me in the eye. "You agree to this?" I asked, my voice low and tight. Jack shrugged slightly, as if this had nothing to do with him. "He has a child on the way, Taylor. He needs a home more than you." I let out a cold, hollow laugh. "And I don't deserve a home?" No one answered. Everything in my mind seemed to collapse. I looked around the room, the cream-colored walls I had picked out when we toured the house, the chandelier I had paid for because Mom said it would make the place feel cozier, the sofa set I had carefully ordered online. I had imagined living here, celebrating Christmas here, building a new life here. But now? Ryan stood there, smirking, like he had won a prize he didn't even have to work for. "Come on, Taylor," he said, his voice dripping with smugness. "Why are you making such a big deal? You don't even need this place. You're a great nurse. You'll make the money back in no time." He laughed as he spoke, as if everything I had worked for meant nothing. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shatter the glass in my hand. I wanted to take back what was mine. They thought I would back down, accept this like I had accepted every other injustice before. But they had no idea. Tonight would be the last time they treated me like a puppet. They would find out soon enough. I would do something about this. I locked eyes with my mother, waiting for an explanation. A reason, a shred of guilt, anything that could convince me this wasn't the cold-blooded betrayal it felt like. But she simply crossed her arms and shook her head, as if I were a child throwing a tantrum. "You're being childish, Taylor," she said, her voice a mix of annoyance and condescension. "Ryan needs this home. He has a baby on the way. And you? You're financially stable. You have a great job. You can always earn that money back. Try to understand Ryan, Taylor." I scoffed. "So, what you're saying is, I should work myself to the bone at the hospital for another 10 years to save that money again? And then what? So you can just hand it over to Ryan again? Jack, my stepfather, finally spoke. But his words only made my blood boil. Come on, Taylor, don't make a scene. We're family. Family? I clenched my fists, struggling to contain the storm of emotions inside me. My family had stolen the money I had worked so hard to earn. My family had lied, deceived, and cast me aside without a second thought. I looked at Ryan, the smug smirk on his face, the glint of victory in his eyes. Taylor, don't be so stubborn, he shrugged. You can make that money back in no time. Just think of it as charity for the less fortunate. Charity? I bit down on my tongue to keep from screaming. Ryan, I said, my voice shaking with rage. Do you even know what I had to do to save that money? 10 years. I worked for 10 years, saving every single dollar. I sacrificed every vacation, every holiday, every night of peaceful sleep. And what did you do? Jump from one garbage business idea to another before crawling back to leech off my mother. Ryan raised an eyebrow, shrugging like I was blowing things out of proportion. Don't act so self-righteous, he scoffed. You're just a nurse, not some big-shot surgeon. It's not like you saved the world. Just work a few more years and you'll have it back. Something inside me shattered. My mother didn't object to his words. Jack didn't either. No one in this so-called family was on my side. I turned to my mother, locking eyes with her. How long have you been planning this? She avoided my gaze, but that flicker of hesitation told me everything. From the beginning, right? I pressed, my voice ice cold. You never intended to keep your promise. You just wanted me to pay for this house so you could quietly hand it over to Ryan. Didn't you? Her blinking quickened, as if searching for a way to deny it. Taylor, you're overthinking things. I laughed, a hollow, bitter sound. Overthinking. I shook my head. Look me in the eye and tell me you had no idea this was the plan all along. Silence. A sharp pain stabbed through my chest. I had always known my mother favored Ryan, that she loved him more than me. But I never thought she would steal my future and hand it to him without hesitation. You always told me I was your daughter, I murmured. But today, I realized something. My mother frowned. Realized what? I met her gaze, feeling the weight of my heartbreak press against my ribs. I was never really your daughter at all. She opened her mouth to argue, but I didn't give her the chance. I turned and walked out of the house I had once dreamed of calling my own, leaving behind the people who had betrayed me. The people I once called family. I drove in silence, gripping the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles turned white. My chest still ached with anger, but more than anything, there was a deep, gnawing pain spreading through my mind. They had deceived me. The people I trusted had stolen from me without hesitation. When I finally reached my apartment, I sank onto the couch, my mind blank. What now? The money was gone. The house was no longer mine. 10 years of savings, wiped away and placed into Ryan's hands. The ringing of my phone snapped me back to reality. Rachel. I picked up, my voice hoarse. I'm not in the mood to talk right now. Taylor, I know you're devastated, but you can't just let this go. Rachel's voice was urgent. I don't want to hear you say it's too late, or they're my family, or any other excuse. I let out a bitter laugh. Family? Do you really think they see me as family? No, and that's exactly why you need to fight back, Rachel said firmly. They stole that house from you, but you can take it back. I shook my head, even though she couldn't see me. How? The paperwork is already signed. I'm not sure, Rachel lowered her voice, but my family's lawyer once told me that a property can't be transferred illegally without the original owner's consent. If you didn't sign any transfer documents, this might be fraud. I blinked, my heart pounding harder. Rachel continued, my brother has a friend who's a real estate lawyer, Marcus Hayes. You need to meet him. I hesitated. Bringing the law into this meant my parents could get into trouble. No matter how angry I was, I never thought I would take legal action against them. Rachel saw right through me and snapped. You're worried about them getting hurt? What about you, Taylor? Did they care about you? Did they think about your feelings when they betrayed you? Her words hit me like a slap. They didn't care. If they did, they wouldn't have done something so cruel. I took a deep breath, gripping my phone tighter. All right. I'll meet Marcus. The next morning, I walked into Marcus Hayes' office. He was a sharp-looking man in his 40s, with a keen gaze and a no-nonsense demeanor. He flipped through the stack of documents I handed him, scanning each page with intense focus. I sat across from him, my stomach twisted with nerves. Do you see anything wrong? Marcus paused, pulling out a letter from the pile. His expression darkened. Did you know about this letter? I squinted at it. It was a legal notice sent to my mother and stepfather 2 weeks ago. The contents were clear. Transferring ownership of the house without my consent could be considered contract fraud. I was still the legal owner. A cold chill ran down my spine. They knew, I whispered. They knew this was illegal and did it anyway. Marcus nodded. If they signed a transfer without your approval, this is fraud. And, if there's any sign of forgery, we're looking at an even more serious crime. My heart pounded. Are you saying I can get my house back? Marcus set down his pen, crossing his arms as he looked at me. Not only can you reclaim it, but you can also hold them legally accountable. I swallowed hard. A part of me wasn't ready to drag my parents into legal trouble. But they had thrown me into a pit first. I met Marcus' gaze, my voice steadier than ever. I want my house back. Marcus nodded, picking up his phone. Then we start now. At that moment, I made my decision. I wasn't going to let them take my home without a fight. I sat in Marcus's office, my eyes locked on the stack of documents in front of me. He pointed to a line in the transfer contract, his voice firm. This signature isn't yours. My stomach twisted. I didn't need him to tell me that. I had never signed any documents to transfer ownership of my home. But now, there was a legal contract, with a signature that looked disturbingly like mine. Marcus flipped to another page. Additionally, the previous legal notice proves that your mother and Jack knew this was illegal but went through with it anyway. He looked up at me. Taylor, this isn't just real estate fraud. They may have forged your signature. If that's the case, this is a serious criminal offense. I swallowed hard. What can we do? Marcus leaned back in his chair, his expression sharp and decisive. First, I'm filing a court order to freeze any changes to the property. That means Ryan can't sell, mortgage, or make any alterations to the house. Then, we'll file a lawsuit to overturn the transfer and reinstate your ownership. I took a deep breath. Do it. Marcus didn't hesitate. He started typing on his computer immediately. As I walked out of his office, I knew one thing for certain. I had officially declared war on my own family. Just one day after the paperwork was filed, my phone exploded with calls from my mother, Jack, and of course Ryan. I didn't answer. But when I checked my voicemail, my mother's voice echoed through every message, swinging between anger and desperation. Taylor, you can't do this to your family. Drop the lawsuit now. Do you want to see your mother in jail? You're tearing this family apart. Ryan needs that house. Think about your nephew. And then Ryan's voice, furious, mocking. You think you're going to win? You think your fancy lawyer is that good? In the end, you're just a selfish little girl. I deleted every single message. Not long after, I received an email from Marcus. The judge had granted the injunction. That meant Ryan couldn't touch the house until the case was settled. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I was taking back control of my life. That night, just as I arrived at my apartment, a pounding knock echoed through my door. I knew something was wrong the moment I heard it. When I opened it, my mother stood there, eyes red and swollen, while Ryan loomed behind her, his face dark with anger. Before I could react, my mother stepped inside. Taylor, please, don't do this. She reached for my hand, her voice breaking. Family is more important than money. I pulled my hand away, stepping back. You call stealing family? Ryan shoved his way in, no longer bothering to hide the contempt on his face. You really think you're smart, huh? You think some second-rate lawyer is going to help you beat me? I folded my arms, unshaken. Ryan, I don't need to think. I know I'll win. Because I'm the one who paid for that house. My mother broke into sobs, her eyes pleading. Do you really want to sue your own family? Do you really want to put me through this? I met her gaze, my voice ice cold. You put yourself through this, Ryan growled, stepping closer, but I raised a hand. I suggest you don't do anything stupid, because if you lay a hand on me, this won't just be a lawsuit. Ryan froze, rage flashing in his eyes, but he didn't move any further. My mother sobbed harder. But this time, I felt nothing. Get out of my house. I enunciated every word, firm and unyielding. She choked on a breath. Taylor, you'll regret this. I gripped the door, staring straight at them. No, Mom. For the first time in my life, I don't regret a damn thing. And then I slammed the door shut, locking them out of my home. Out of my life. Their game was over. Now, it was my turn. 3 weeks after I filed the lawsuit, everything shifted in a way my mother, Jack, and Ryan never saw coming. Marcus did exactly what he promised. He brought them to justice. The fraud was undeniable. A transfer contract without my legal signature. The warning letter from the attorney they had deliberately ignored. And, most damning of all, the fact that they had forged my signature. The judge didn't take long to make a ruling. The contract was voided, the house was returned to my name, and they were ordered to pay $50,000, covering my legal fees and the emotional damages they had caused me. When their lawyer informed them of the outcome, I could almost picture my mother's face turning pale over the phone. They had lost. The final signing took place at Marcus's law office. The air in the room was ice cold when I walked in. Jack sat slumped over the table, avoiding my gaze. My mother quietly wiped away tears, but this time I felt nothing but disgust. Ryan sat across from me, looking like a man who had lost everything. I pulled out a chair and sat down, slowly opening the file. Marcus pointed to the last line of the agreement. Everyone needs to sign here. The property will be transferred back to Taylor. Additionally, this is the statement acknowledging the fraud. My mother sniffled, her voice weak. Do we really have to do this, Taylor? I looked at her, feeling the icy resolve in my voice. Yes. I don't want you rewriting history later. I don't want to hear anyone say I stole the house from Ryan. I want the truth documented. Jack sighed, picking up the pen. His hands trembled as he signed each page. Ryan was different. His jaw was clenched so tight it looked painful, his face twisted with rage. When he looked at me, I could see the hatred burning in his eyes. He threw the pen onto the table. You're going to regret this. I smiled, victory coursing through me. No, Ryan. I won't regret a damn thing. With fury written all over his face, he scrawled an angry, nearly illegible signature onto the agreement. My mother was the last to sign. As she placed the pen down, her eyes brimmed with tears, and her voice trembled. Do you really want to cut me off like this? I didn't answer. I simply stood up and gathered my documents into my bag. You're the one who pushed me out of this family. I walked out of the room, leaving them to face the consequences of their own actions. A week later, I heard about the final blow to Ryan. Jessica, his wife, filed for divorce as soon as she discovered that he had secretly taken out loans in her name. When she checked her bank accounts, she found massive debts. All traced back to Ryan. I was a fool to trust him, Jessica said bitterly over the phone. I wasn't surprised. Ryan had never taken responsibility for anything in his life. Less than a month after losing the house, getting divorced and drowning in debt, he was forced to move back in with my mother and Jack. From what I heard through mutual acquaintances, their lives had descended into chaos, money running dry, a cramped rental apartment, and 3 people who once thought they could manipulate me now struggling to survive. This wasn't revenge. This was justice. I stepped into my house a week after all the legal proceedings were finalized. No more Ryan's fake laughter, no more Jack's condescending stares, no more manipulative words from my mother. Just me. And a house that truly belonged to me. I sank onto the sofa, exhaling a deep breath of relief. I had won. And, more importantly, I had reclaimed myself. I stood in the empty living room, taking in the silence. This house, once the center of a brutal legal battle, once the place I had dreamed of calling my own, was now nothing more than an asset on paper. It no longer felt like security, no longer symbolized anything but betrayal, and the years I had been used. I knew I had to leave. The next morning I contacted a real estate agent. Within 3 weeks I received an offer well above market value, and I didn't hesitate to accept it. When I signed the sales contract, I felt lighter than ever. No more ties to this house. No more ties to the bitter past. The money from the sale, combined with the $50,000 settlement from my family, gave me enough to finally pursue my real dream. To buy a small home with a private garden, a place where I could start fresh, free from manipulation. 2 months later, I moved into a cozy little house on the outskirts of the city. A charming place with a wide porch and a lush green garden I had always longed for. For the first time in years I felt true happiness as I opened my front door, stepped onto the warm wooden floors, and looked out into the sunlit yard. No trace of my mother. No cruel words from Ryan. No more proving my worth to people who had never valued me. I was completely free. Of course, they didn't disappear so easily. Just a few weeks after I sold the house, my mother started calling relentlessly. At first, the messages were disguised as concern, filled with casual questions about my life. But when I didn't respond, her tone quickly changed. "Taylor, do you really want to cut me off? I'm still your mother no matter what. Family isn't something you can just throw away so easily. Ryan is struggling. Can't you help him a little? You have more than enough money." I didn't reply. Jack also sent an email, a long-winded message about family bonds and forgiveness. I read it once, then deleted everything. I had learned my lesson. Once you set a boundary, you don't let anyone cross it. Without my family draining my energy, I poured all my time into myself. I focused on my career more than ever, and it quickly led to a promotion, head of nursing at the hospital. Marcus was right when he said I wasn't just reclaiming my house. I was reclaiming myself. I used to be the one who volunteered for holiday shifts so my coworkers could spend time with their families, the one who stayed late to help out whenever needed, but now, I had learned to say no, to put my own needs first. I was no longer the girl who always placed others above herself. Not everyone turned their back on me. Rachel was always there. She helped me repaint my living room, plant roses in my backyard, and every weekend we spent time together, enjoying a glass of wine on my balcony. "I still can't believe you actually did it," Rachel said one Friday night, her eyes sparkling with pride. I smiled, looking out at the garden, where the flowers were beginning to bloom. "I've never felt this free in my life." Rachel raised her glass. "Then here's to the freedom of Taylor Parker." I clinked my glass against hers, feeling truly at peace. No more obligations, no more emotional debts, no more burdens I never should have carried in the first place. Just me, my life, and a future that belonged entirely to me. 1 year later, my life had changed in ways I never thought possible. No more endless calls from my mother. No more lingering resentment over stolen money. No more feeling like I had to prove myself to people who never truly cared about me. I was completely free. My little house had become my sanctuary. My backyard flourished with flowers I had planted myself. Rows of tomatoes and fresh greens thrived under the morning sun. Every morning, I sipped coffee on my balcony, letting the breeze brush against my skin, feeling lighter than ever. No more burdens. No more pain. I once thought I would be trapped in the endless cycle of my family's manipulations, that no matter what I did, I would always be the one being used. But now, I had built a life I truly loved. My career had skyrocketed as well. Being promoted to head of nursing didn't just come with a better salary. It gave me a real voice in my workplace. I was no longer the one stuck with every night shift. No longer the one shouldering extra responsibilities, just because I didn't have a family to rush home to. I learned to set boundaries, both in my work and in my personal life. And that made me stronger than ever. I should have known my mother would never truly give up. One autumn afternoon, just as I finished watering the vegetable garden behind my house, the doorbell rang. I opened the door, and there she was. The same eyes, the same deliberately weary, fragile demeanor. But I was no longer the girl I used to be. My mother took a deep breath, her voice weak. "Taylor, can I come in?" I didn't step aside. "What do you want?" She swallowed hard, avoiding my gaze. I know things went too far before. I shouldn't have done that to you. But now, Jack and I are struggling. Ryan too. We're family, Taylor. You can't just abandon them. I looked at her for a long moment. No pain, no anger. Just absolute clarity. Family? I raised an eyebrow. Family is about respect and appreciation, not just showing up when you need money. She hesitated, as if she couldn't believe how blunt I was. "Are you really going to turn your back on me?" Her voice broke. I met her eyes, my voice firm. "You turned your back on me first, remember?" She had no response. With nothing left to say, I gave her a small nod before closing the door. This time, I didn't feel guilty. I didn't owe them anything anymore. That evening, Rachel came over. She brought a bottle of wine as usual, and we sat on the balcony, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and gold. "I saw your mom's car outside earlier," Rachel remarked, glancing at me. I shrugged, taking a sip of my wine. "She came asking for money," I said no. Rachel chuckled, pride glimmering in her eyes. "I still remember the days when you would have emptied your savings account for them. You've changed so much, Taylor." I smiled, feeling a deep, unshakable peace within me. "I haven't changed," I said, setting my glass down. "I've just finally learned to value myself more." Rachel lifted her glass, her eyes shining in the fading light. "Then here's to the new Taylor." I clinked my glass against hers, listening to the soft chime of crystal echoing through the quiet garden. My life was finally mine. And I didn't regret a single moment of my decision. Taylor's story isn't just about reclaiming a house, it's about reclaiming herself. It highlights the reality that family isn't always a safe haven, and sometimes, the people closest to us are the ones who exploit us the most. Through betrayal, struggle, and triumph, Taylor learned an important lesson. True freedom comes from setting boundaries and valuing oneself. In life, no one is obligated to sacrifice endlessly for those who don't appreciate them. Living well is the best revenge. What are your thoughts on Taylor's story? Have you ever experienced being taken advantage of by family like she did? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to follow the channel for more powerful real-life stories about family, justice, and freedom.